This is the first of many videos of my Continental Divide Trail through hike in 2023. I had an amazing time and was successful, so I hope that you enjoy the series, and if you have any questions about it, leave them in the comments below. Here we are, Crazy Cook. There's the border with Mexico and New Mexico. And there's the first few steps of the trail. And as they say, the longest journeys begin with a single step. So here's Vanessa. She was kind enough to come all the way out to New Mexico and Arizona to see me off. I couldn't do this kind of stuff without her support, so I'm super appreciative. And it'll be one of the hardest parts of the trail being away for so long.
Love you.
Me too. This is the very first of the trail markers. We cowboy camped. That's my friend Bubble Wrap from New Zealand. Beautiful sunset the very first night. The next morning, Bubble Wrap almost ended up in my lap as we were walking down the dirt road because she almost stepped on that rattlesnake and basically jumped away into me. It's funny. And a great horned toad, which were super camouflaged, very cool. I'm about 50 miles into the CDT in the desert, and overall things are doing really well. I was really afraid of getting sunburned, and I'm doing a really good job with sunscreen, and that hasn't really been the case yet. Uncharacteristically, I have 2 small blisters on the balls of my feet, which is a bummer. They don't feel too bad, but I'm going to certainly be taking it easy on them to try to make sure that they don't turn into something worse. It's been very hot, and the water carries are much longer than anything I'm used to, but so far I'm in pretty high spirits and things are going well. Today's got a little bit more elevation change. It's still very mild and gradual, but you do get up onto the top of these little hills and get some really nice, pretty views. So there's a whole bunch of Ocotillo and bigger mountains off in the distance. Night 3, home sweet home. So I'm in a wash right now. Roughly, I'd say about 7 miles from Water Cache 4. Today was a very big day. I went further than I was planning on it. I'm kind of regretting it now. My blisters are worse and I'm very tired, so hopefully I'll get some good sleep. But it's a beautiful sunset behind me. And I'm all set up. I've already had dinner and basically just have to wash up a little bit, brush my teeth, and get some well-needed rest. Just got going on the morning of day 4, going into Lordsburg today. It's only about 14 miles from where I slept. I slept down in that kind of green area and some really nice soft sand. Looking back at the way I came, there's a kind of a rocky hill here, which is probably maybe like 50 feet of vertical gain, but it's like the most in the shortest amount of time I've done, which sounds ridiculous. But I thought I would take a video of it because it felt unique. Here's a little bit of boot camp for you. So as far as the eye can see, there's barbed wire fence. And the trail has a sign down there. And this is clearly it. So I am going to take my pack off, hand it over, and belly crawl. This is the last of the stocked water caches. So there's 5 of them, meaning this is number 5. They've been an incredible dependency out here just to know that you have guaranteed water because they do such a good job keeping up with it. So after this, I'm sort of at the mercy of the cow ponds and the solar pumps and all that kind of stuff, and I just have to kind of keep my fingers crossed that the water sources are good. So far, they all have been, for the most part, very good because it's supposed to be a wetter than average spring out here, so I'm fortunate with that. Just arriving at the town of Lordsburg, New Mexico. I've decided that I'm going to spend the night here, do some laundry, take a shower, and then also try to go through my gear and see what I can send to myself in Silver City just a few days away, just to make the next few days that much easier on my body. It's the morning of day 5. I'm in the Motel 6 in Lordsburg, and I figured it might be kind of fun to just show what I actually look like with my background since there aren't lots of mirrors out there. But this is typically it. There's only 3 days of food in here right now, so that's nice, but I expect it to be not a ton of water. There shouldn't be any until 15 miles in, so I'm still figuring out how much I need on a day-to-day basis. So right now I'm carrying 4 liters, which is heavy, but that goes down throughout the day. So this is the room. I was pleasantly surprised. With tax and stuff, I ended up coming out to just under 75, which was nice. The pool is closed, but the laundry worked. So if I had to choose one of the two, that would be it. This little fox popped right up out of that hole. Really cool shot. So this is the first water source that I was kind of envisioning the whole time I thought of water sources along the CDT. All the other ones I was able to stop at had pumps that were flowing, and there were spigots that you could get really cold, clear water out of. But this is the first kind of its kind that I've bumped into. Looks really green and churny. Obviously the bees love it. But you can see it's filtering out crystal clear. I don't know how it'll taste, but we will find out. So a kind soul left out some drinks, which is amazing. It's very, very hot, even though the temperature isn't that high right now. It's just been in the sun all day with no clouds. I have enough water, so I'm going to leave that for somebody that might not. But what I couldn't believe is an entire 5-gallon bucket full of icy cold drinks. So that's a wonderful treat. Thank you. There are some awesome little amphibious creatures that I don't know how to pronounce their name, but other people were putting in the comments that they're like axolotl or something like that. But they're in this cow trough. They're awesome looking. There's a bunch of them. There's another guy that's even bigger that's really hard to see. He's under that float. Yeah, there he's moving. What cool little creatures. I did not think I would see anything like this in the desert. This is the worst of the 2 blisters, so it's on my right foot. This part right here is sensitive, but it's not really getting any worse, but it's growing this way. So this stuff up here is new from today, and this little bump is new. My other foot isn't as bad. It just has that same similar thing there. And those are unique spots. I've never gotten blisters in those places before, but what I think it is I think it's the sand. I think it gets into my socks and shoes, and then it's constantly like towing off, like at that position when I'm pressing off. I think the sand and stuff kind of sinks into the low point and just sort of rests there. So I've started today changing my socks midday, and I've been washing my feet and my legs at night too. So we'll see. It's the morning of the 6th, my 6th day on the trail. It's almost 7:45 in the morning. It got very chilly last night, down to 42. And I'm finally at a point where, after doing all my chores and washing my socks and everything because I had water, my fingers are finally thawed out enough that I can take a short video. But I wanted to show what kind of the high desert looks like. So I'm about, I don't know, 30-ish miles north of Lordsburg. So for anybody that is feeling like they're never going to see anything but sand again and no trees, you do get some up here. I've got a pretty fun tent site for night 6. So this is the most flowing water I've seen so far on the trip. So it flows down through this giant sand bed. And there's enough current, it's actually really easy to fill up. And then off to the side, hopefully out of the way, I've got my setup right there. Nice sandy spot. Alright, good morning of one weekend, May the 7th, day 7. Waking up inside this canyon, and it's very chilly. I just checked my thermometer, and it's currently 34.4 degrees, which is definitely the coldest yet. Yesterday morning felt cold, and it's 42 degrees. And then before that, I'm pretty sure all the actual temperatures in the morning were either very high 40s or 50s, so big difference. Trying to get a pretty quick pack up, and I've got a little bit more trail to get to a long road walk into Silver City today, where I'll do resupply and laundry and all those chores and good stuff. I'm about 8 miles out of Silver City and just did a sweaty climb, but a really nice pretty view. So this is Silver City. I didn't take a whole lot of video footage while I was here, but it's an awesome little town. But the huge bummer was that I got there on a Sunday and everything was closed Sunday and Monday, so I really didn't get to go to much. Behind me is where the official red line goes up into the Black Mountain Range. I don't plan on doing that. Statistically, at least 3 and 4 people do the Hila alternate, as it's pronounced correctly. So I only know of 2 folks that are planning on going that way. My journey is going to take me down that dirt road down into the Hila River. I've made it down the Hila alternate down to Bear Creek, so it's nice to be by some beautiful natural flowing water. I'm down to my last water bottle, but I knew there'd be plenty of water down here, so I'll probably drink that even though it's warm, and I'm sure that water would be very cold. I'm descending down to the Hila River currently, and you can tell I'm dropping down into a canyon. There's very steep switchbacks that are going back and forth that are getting me down there, but it won't be too long until I actually get down to where the river starts. Here we've got Sycamore Creek flowing into the Hila River down there, so I head down to the Hila and swing right and head north. I just want to take a quick moment to dispel some of the myths about this. So granted, this is the lower fork and not the middle fork that has a much tighter canyon. But if you pay close attention to the pink line and you try to stay on the same side of the river as the line, you can still find long stretches of hard packed trail. So I don't think you have to put on your arm floaties and try to swim against the current the whole time, at least. It might get worse. Probably will. This was probably the biggest cottonwood I've ever seen. It's hard to put this into scale, but that board, to me, I would guess is probably an 8-foot long 1x6. And then look at the size of this tree. I think you could probably, if you hollowed that out, put my car in it. I've been at this for a while now, but it's so unique and beautiful, I just wanted to show off a little bit on video. So this is pretty consistent. There's a lot of these big cliff walls in the corners that redivert the water into these chutes. And the Far Out app has been extremely good about guiding you through the path of least resistance. And then if you really focus on it, you can kind of find a pretty well-beaten path on each chunk of land. It takes a little bit of work. Well, I've got to walk about maybe 100 yards before I get my feet wet this morning. There's still over a dozen water crossings to get to Doc Campbell's area, so even though it's only 45 degrees out, it's time to get wet. I'd say I made it. This should be the last river crossing of the lower fork of the Hila River. And there's a road, and I think I will be taking that road just for another mile or so to the Doc Campbell's area that also has the hot springs, campgrounds, and stuff like that. So I made much faster time through there than I was planning and honestly even hoping for. It's only 9:53 and I got moving around 8 to do the roughly 7 miles that I had to do today, not including the mile road walk, which will go fast. So I've heard some stories of the folks at Doc seeing hikers and opening things up quickly to get them their mail drop and whatnot. So maybe that'll happen to me. Worst case scenario, it's going to be a very easy, relaxing day. I'll probably go check out the hot springs and get settled in. This is Doc Campbell's, which is a very popular resupply point. I was blown away with how accommodating that they were. Their entire store was closed the day that I got there, but they have a sign on the front that if you're a hiker, like knock on the door. And sure enough, they let me come inside and shop the store like as a normal customer and got me my resupply. All of they were closed, so they were huge in helping out hikers. The middle fork of the Gila was stunningly beautiful, and the pictures and videos just don't do it justice. It's one of those places you just have to see to really understand.
The canyon walls are starting to fade from their steepness, but there's a beautiful, unique washout cave right there. That's huge. I guess from the top of the stream to the top there is probably like 15 feet, and it probably goes 20 feet back. Bummer. So I stopped for lunch around midday, and I noticed that one of the two socks that I had in the back of my pack, drying on a safety pin, the safety pin was open and the sock was no longer there. So I left my pack here, and then I gave myself 20 minutes backwards, and if I couldn't find it within that amount of time, then I'd have to chalk it up as a loss. So backtracked, did probably a penalty mile, and crossed the river a few more times than necessary. So no luck, unfortunately. Bummer. Here's another one of those really big, awesome looking water cave things. And right over where that little eddy's swirling, right where that grass starts, I saw two very good sized fish. I bet they were both at least close to 12 inches long. So this would be a good spot to fish if you're looking to. Look at this crazy eared squirrel. This is Spring Lake. It's the first lake if you're heading northbound on the Continental Divide Trail. Not the biggest, but it's the most water I've seen in one place in New Mexico, that's for sure. And they created it by damming it. Of course, it's not natural, but the Gila flows out of this. I'm done with the Gila now, so I look like I am planning on doing like another mile, I think. There's supposed to be a spring down here with good camping on it according to the notes in the Far Out app, so that's what I'm looking for now. It's not too late in the day. It's only about 5:30, but my feet have been soaking wet for the last 3 days between the lower and the middle fork, so I wouldn't mind getting my socks and my shoes into the sun and maybe, just maybe, actually having dry feet for tomorrow morning. I'm going to guess these are javelina. Because from this distance, they're definitely, I thought they were bears at first, but they walk like pigs. I bet they are. It's very calm here. Like there's no wind whatsoever. I'm camped just about 2 miles north of Snow Lake. But it's really peaceful. I do have a bear hang. And this is a stream that flows out of a very big spring that's probably like a 1/4 mile away upstream from that. Okay, off to a pretty slow start on the 12th. It got really cold last night, and I've had a couple good like teachable moments slash like learn as you go reminders. So the first thing was yesterday, bushwhacking through the Gila. I did lose a sock, which is turned into kind of like expensive litter. I went back and looked for it for about a mile, but I don't really know where it came off, so that would have been a very long search. So I need to be more mindful about taking things off when they're dry, because the socks have been dry for days. I just left them on there for some silly reason. So that's thing number one. And thing number two is that last night it got very cold. I made the mistake of trusting my Garmin InReach Mini 2 weather forecast, and it was very optimistic. It said the low should only be about 46, which almost sounds too good to be true, but not so outrageous, because down in the Hila, in the canyon where all the cold air sinks in the morning, it never got below freezing, not even once. So it was like 38, 37, got down to 34 once, so I didn't really think it was going to get below freezing now that I'm out of the canyon, but I was wrong. It got down to 24. And that doesn't really matter, but when you leave your water filter out because you were almost certain, mistakenly, that it wasn't going to get below freezing, I risked my water filter. I got up when I was really cold in the early morning before the sun and got it. Noticed there was ice on it coming out of the spout, the clean side, and put it in a Ziploc and brought it in my sleeping bag with me. But at that point, obviously, it's a little too late because there's already water that froze in it. So I have to try it out. If it gets extremely good flow rate, that means that I burst the inside and have to replace it. I don't have any way to get a new one for at least a few days, so it's better than nothing. But unfortunately, that was learn as you go. And now when I get my mini forecast from the Garmin thing, it's ludicrous. It was telling me it was 2 o'clock here when it was 7 a.m. It was telling me it was 76 degrees here when it was 26 degrees here. So there's something's really, really off with it. If it had been that bonkers the night before, I wouldn't have trusted it, but what can you do? It's also telling me thunderstorms the next 3 days straight. So I don't know where it's giving me the forecast from, but it is not up high in New Mexico. Here's a look at a typical water source. So you get to share it with a bunch of friendly cows that are still kind of intimidating because they're so big. But this is a huge, huge tank that's very full. And in fact, it's overflowing. So the trick is always try to find where the ground pumps pump into the tank. So in this case, it's that pipe, because that pipe goes down through a whole bunch of systems to a pump over from these solar panels. So it's electrically powered. So if you can find the input, you can get the cleanest water. As you can see, there's a lot of dead bugs and algae and stuff in there, but what I was able to do is open up my Canuck bladder and sort of like wrap it around that pipe and sort of pinch the top close. So really like the inflow of that pipe is really pressurizing it fast. So the water I got out of it was really pretty clear. So there's a pro tip for you. It's the morning of the 13th. I'm up pretty high. I slept kind of right where that road is. There's a little bit of a flat clearing there. And I slept there. It was pretty windy. Had about 9,000 feet. And you can see really bad evidence of burns through here. So all that hillside over there got burnt, unfortunately. But there's a chance of thunderstorms today, so it would be the first precipitation I've seen if that happens. And my goal today is to shoot for somewhere in the 25 to 27 mile range and just get myself that much closer to one more of that same kind of distance next days to get me to Pie Town the day after. So this morning is my kind of day slash trail, whatever you want to call it. I'm up high still. I'm still above 8,000 feet. So it's actually pretty cool. So I'm a very comfortable temperature. And the sun's out and shining on me, but I'm cool enough that it doesn't feel like it's cooking me. And there's a significant strong wind slash breeze. So it's keeping me really comfortable. Plus, as you can see, the trail is pretty mellow. So this is very enjoyable. This was a particularly pretty section. Just really big open grasslands with these really nice big tall kind of buttes off in the distance. And I just saw 3 of what I believe are pronghorn back there, which is really kind of cool too. All the water sources in this stretch are bone dry, so I'm glad that I read the notes and stocked up extra in the morning. Day 15. So I got a slightly earlier than normal start for myself because I'm trying to get into Pie Town at a decent time today. And it's also got a chance for showers later, so I'd rather get there and not walk in the rain on the road. But it's a beautiful morning. The wind is really light, and I want to kind of do a quick pano around. So that's the direction I'm going. It's the trail heading off to the northeast. Sunrise was about half an hour ago. Right here is where I had set up last night, trying to use this little tree as like my wind block. And long shadows out here. Very big field. So I'm out in this enormous field still, which I've been in for a lot of yesterday and a lot of this morning. And trying to follow an invisible line is almost impossible. There's no footprints besides cows. But I think I've got to the point where this barbed wire fence is sort of in my way. So now I have to play boot camp and crawl underneath it. Got my laundry all taken care of and some of my electronics charged up. And I even got to dodge a little bit of a shower. I saw it was sprinkling out while I was taking care of those chores. So I'm about 3 miles from Pie Town. Not currently raining, so I'm going to walk to town and try to get some more stuff done. Hit the post office, get my resupply from the toaster house, and find some place to charge. Well, I was super duper lucky 2 days ago with a big front missing me to the east, and even luckier yesterday with the front coming up from the west and then completely changing its direction and passing in front of me to headed east and not getting wet at all. But today during my road walk, I did indeed meet showers on day 15 in New Mexico. So I made it to the toaster house. Most of the hikers here got in a little bit earlier than I did, so I just finished getting myself clean in the shower. And a lot of them went out to go find food, but a lot of people do switch out their first shoes here. I went through my resupply and got that all packaged up.
The Ohana restaurant in Pie Town gives a free slice of a pie of your choice to hikers as they're leaving town, which their pie is amazing too. So definitely go there. I highly recommend it.